This is my 2 foot tall wine glass Pico saltwater mixed reef aquarium. And that's a mouthful. This is a Dalua Illumagic Pixel in the reefer coloration with the controller. That also is a mouthful. And both of these things are some of my favorite things that I've done in the reefing hobby. Let's talk about it. Today's video is a two-part video. Not only is it a product review of this Dalua Illumagic Pixel light, but it's also going to be a little bit of a discussion about lighting your Nano or Pico aquarium. If you've been digging into the lighting choices for your Nanos and Picos, you will find that there are really not that many to choose from. And a lot of them are very cheap, sort of budget models. And look, I have nothing against that. I use some of them myself. Little $30 Hygger light ran my candy jar tank for the better part of 6 months before I took it down. But this light is a step above those for several reasons, and I'm going to tell you why. But first, I need you to understand that they did send me this light for the purpose of this review, but they did not pay me to say anything that I'm about to say. These opinions are mine, and I have come up with these opinions over the last 8 or so months of using this light. That's right. I did not just get this light yesterday and then decide to make a review on it today. I've used it for several months in several different scenarios on this wine glass tank, and those are what I'm going to tell you about. So first things first, let's go over the good things I like about it, and then I will tell you the one thing that I don't like about it, but it's a very small thing. Number one, there is no app. There is no Bluetooth, there is no Wi-Fi, there's none of that crap that's going to be connected to the light. It simply just runs. Now you can configure it in two different ways. You can get it without the timing control unit, and it's just on or off whenever you turn the outlet on or off, and it runs at 100%, which is perfectly fine because Dalua warranties the lens and the LED diodes and all of that for the lifetime of you owning the light. They may be the only light manufacturer on the market producing a light like this with a true lifetime warranty. I haven't checked them all, so I can't say that with certainty, but they're definitely one of the few. And the second way that you can run it is you can also purchase the light controlling unit, which I'm showing you a demonstration of right here. It's very easy to use. You push a few buttons, you set your schedule for what you want that schedule to be, and it just goes through that schedule for you. You can ramp up and ramp down the light and set it at 100% through the middle of the day if you want to, but it only has a couple of preset points and it's very easy to get set, and then you just forget about it. Now, the one thing that I don't like, if the power goes off, when it comes back on, this thing is going to start flashing, and it'll flash and stop, flash and stop, flash and stop until you come over here and hit the off button. It's not a big deal. It's probably not ever going to be a problem for most people, but here where I live, our power flickers and blinks at least once a week. So about once a week, this thing loses its mind and I have to come over here and hit the off button. That's not really a fault against the light. It's just how it notifies you that it lost power and you're not going to be going through your, pre-done schedule or whatever. It actually functions as it's supposed to. It's just annoying for me because we lose power so often. But that's not really a hit against them, I guess you would say. Now, you can get it in 4 different colorations. This coloration is called the Reefer, and it is a mix. It's supposed to be a full spectrum, kind of blue-white scenario with a little bit of red going on in there. Or you can get a Fragger model, which is much more blue. It's going to make your coral coloration pop just that much more. And actually, I would like to add a Fragger to this system so that I could have them mixed and have them ramp at different times, so I could have that blue pop late at night when the corals are fully open right before the lights go out, so I could take pictures. And also, it would benefit the PAR just a little bit with it, which we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. They have 2 other colorations, one of which is for refugiums and macroalgae. It's a much more red spectrum light, and they even have a freshwater planted tank light, which I think would be very cool to have for my little betta fish tank planted 5-gallon over here, which is running with a Hygger strip light currently, and it's doing just fine. But it'd be neat to have a pixel on that and a pixel on this little quarantine tank over here just so that all three match. That would look really nice in my house. I should also say that this is my fourth time recording this video. The first three times were met with very much failure and problems. Illumagic Pixel in the Reefer coloration. So if you don't hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe for my labors, I'm not going to do anything about it, but I would appreciate it if you did all of those things, because that will help me grow and I will be able to do more product reviews like this one. Now, the mount system for the Pixel is very nice, and they have several different options. They have a little short mount that's just kind of a kick angle like this, mounts right on the rim of the tank, and you can put the light on it. They have this boom arm mount like what I have here, and they even have mounts where you can add multiple pixels across a span. So for something like a 40 breeder tank, you could have 3 or 4 of them across a main bar. They have that as well. So make sure you check the website, match up your mounting solution with whatever you're going to be putting these lights on. Now, one pixel is going to be good for a space about 18 by 18. So like a 15-gallon cube of space, right? So let's just say you had like a 40 breeder. I would put a minimum of 3 on a 40 breeder. I would probably even go with 4, and I would probably stagger them so they're in sort of a rectangle shape instead of just one line. That's going to give you the maximum spread. These can absolutely be used for a bigger tank than something like a Pico or a Nano, and they even have a model that is called an X4, which is basically 4 of these on one sort of backing plate. And one of my favorite aquariums in the entire hobby right now is using these things. It's Danny's Paludarium mixed reef tank build. Absolutely amazing. Go look it up. He's using the X4s, growing plants and corals and everything in this massive paludarium. It's amazing. Go check that out. All right, so let's talk for a minute about PAR, okay? So I have the light mounted 9 inches above the water, and the water itself is 8 inches deep down to the sand bed. And if you check my little sticker that I have right here, at 100%, this light in this configuration is giving me 174 PAR right at the surface of the water. And as you can see, my corals are perfectly happy with this amount of PAR. Cut that out. So yeah, my corals are looking good. Everything in this tank is thriving and just absolutely loving life. I would like to bump the PAR up just a little bit, so my preference would be to add one of those fraggers. But if I drop this down to about right here, I tested that, and it's still giving me about 225, 230 PAR right at the surface, which I may just lower it down. It's going to be a little bit better for my SPS, but they're not looking bad, so I'm not really messing with it, which is the second part of this video. We're going to talk about why this little tank works so well, and it's really for one reason. I don't jack with it. That is the key to these little tanks in my experience. The more that you micromanage these little tanks, and look, people love to say it, we've been spoon-fed it for years, that little tanks are harder to maintain. And there's truth in that. If you overload the microbiome and you stuff these things and make them bio-heavy, this is a very bio-light tank. There's only a few corals, there's only a few cleaners, there's bristleworms, there's copepods, there's ostracods, and all of that. The 2 macro animals that are in this tank are my harlequin shrimps, who happen to right now be chasing this chocolate chip starfish around because they're hungry. But that's really the key. Most people try to end up putting too much into these Pico tanks, and especially trying to add fish and shrimps and crabs and snails and all of this other stuff and packing corals into it, which you can do. But most of the time, the filtration on these tanks just can't keep up with that bio load, and the amount of corals and things like that versus the amount of water that you have in the tank, it starts to use things up very fast. But if you load it very lightly and you keep your parameters a little bit lower down in the range, the pH in this tank is 7.7. So the growth is not super fast. It's going to use up most of the nutrients that are in the tank for any growth that happens, and you don't get algae and you don't have problems. I literally do not touch this tank other than topping the water off every other day. That's it. I couldn't tell you what the calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium are in the tank because I haven't checked it in months. I don't worry about it. Now, I'm also not keeping high-end, very expensive corals in it either. I have maybe $100 in all of the corals that I have in the whole tank. But that's my point. If you go with easy to keep corals that grow slow and you don't try to overload the biome, leave these things alone and you will find more success doing that than you will trying to micromanage the parameters and make sure that everything is perfect. Now, the one thing that I would say is of the utmost importance is having an auto top off, or you having the ability to manually top it off every day or every other day. I lose about 3 to 4 cups of water out of this thing every other day. So I have to make sure that I top it off, because if I don't, the salinity is going to increase as the water evaporates, and that's not a good situation. We want that stability in these kinds of systems. And that leads me right into my next topic. Once you get your light schedule set, once you get it in a good place, leave it alone. Quit messing with it. And that's one of the beautiful things about the Illumagic Pixel light is it's a manually set it and forget type of system. You put your schedule in there, you ramp that thing up to 100% for 4 to 6 hours through the middle of the day on a nano tank like this, and forget about it. If you end up with algae in the tank, it's almost always more so a nutrient problem than it is too much light. So leave the light alone, manage your nutrients, add some cleaners, and that algae will probably go away. Now, a couple of people have asked me, what do I think about the Illumagic Pixel compared to the Pop Bloom RL60 and also the AI 16 HD Prime? Now, full disclosure, I have never owned an AI Prime. I do not have one now currently to test, but I know a lot of people have, and I know a lot of those lights have been around on the market for a very long time. One thing I do know about the AI Prime is the lenses tend to burn out on those lights, and the fans go out a lot on them, and people are having to change the fans all the time. This light is passively cooled. It doesn't have a fan at all. Now, it does get warm to the touch, but how often do you come over here and touch your freaking light, right? It doesn't emit a lot of heat, so I think that it's fine. The less moving parts you have, the less stuff there is to break, the better, in my opinion. Now, the AI primes, the lenses do tend to burn out, so much so that there's even a guy making aftermarket lenses for those lights that eliminate that problem. But Dalua warranties theirs for the lifetime of you owning the light. So if it ever happens, which is honestly probably not really going to happen because of the way it's designed, but if it does happen, they're going to take care of it for you, no questions asked. Now, as far as the Pop Bloom RL60 goes, this light and that light are on two different ends of the spectrum. They're a different amount of power. This is in the 20s for wattage, and that one's in the 60s for wattage. The RL60 is going to be a much more powerful light than this. It has adjustable spectrum, but it uses Bluetooth and Wi-Fi to control an app that can sometimes be a little wonky. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the Pop Bloom RL60. I have one on my 40-gallon breeder frag tank, and the fact that that 60-watt light is keeping that entire 40 breeder happy with all the corals at the sand bed is kind of an accomplishment for that light, if I do say so myself. But these are not really the same kind of situation. I would put this light up against the Haiger 36 watt, and this is going to come out way ahead of that light just in terms of reliability and, function and use and that lifetime warranty. Also, I think the spectrum looks a little better. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention too, the arm on this light is extremely sturdy, but it is all very heavy. So I designed this 3D printed light mount that screws to the wall, and the light mounts onto that thing. So if you want to get yourself one of these mounts from me, you can do that through the link in the description. Go to my link tree, go to my Etsy store, and it's posted there. Dalua also sells their own 3D printed light mount, so if you want to get it from them, that's perfectly fine, or if you want to support me, I appreciate that very much. And they also sell a light shade that goes around the front, just clips to the bottom here, and it kills out some of the light from the light spill into the room. Personally, I kind of like the way it looks. This is what it looks like just in my house, and it kind of gives it a sort of a table lamp appeal with the way that I have this tank set up. So for me, I don't mind the spill, but if you want to get a light shade for it, Dalua sells those. I did not make a 3D print for those, so I don't have one. You can just get it from them. I love the Dalua Pixel light. I'm going to own more Pixel lights in the future for various different projects and things. And if you want to get one, you know where to go down in the description to get your own. Now, if you want an in-depth review on the Pop Bloom RL60 that I mentioned, you can watch that video right on the screen there. And there's another one right there that YouTube is recommending that would be the best video for specifically you, the viewer, watching. So click that one if you want to see what's on that screen. I'll catch you over there.